Here in session 3B of Genealogy, Tourism, and Education Record Series 6, we're exploring Black interpreters and Black visitors at plantation tourism sites. First, interpreters. The first Black tour guide at a plantation tourism site, unofficially, was Alfred Jackson, who told stories of his own family and that of President Andrew Jackson at the Hermitage in Tennessee upon the president's death in 1845. While the Hermitage was not then officially open for tourists, people came in droves to honor the president and learn more about him. And Alfred Jackson was all too eager to please them. He was the wagoneer in charge of vehicles and horses at the Hermitage. His wife, Gracie Bradley, was personal maid to acting First Lady Sarah Jackson, the president's daughter-in-law. One account of Alfred says, quote, "He witnessed the growth of the Hermitage into a bustling cotton plantation, then its decline before and after the Civil War, and finally its rebirth as a shrine to Jackson," unquote. Alfred Jackson delivered the site stories with gusto, showing people details and telling tales throughout the house for 56 years until he died in 1901. At his death, local and national media took note of his role as America's first plantation site tour guide. Tours at the Hermitage now include stops at Alfred's cabin. And at his gravesite in the shadow of the presidents. Some scholars bemoan Black reenactors in antebellum and postbellum period clothing, proclaiming, for instance, that the women embody, quote, "an image associated with idealized femininity rooted in Southern mythology," unquote. Reenactments often are of daily activities such as cooking, be it indoors or outdoor cooking. Storytelling about other Black life experiences on plantations also is common. Again, be it indoors or outdoors, and about any topic. Black interpreters reenact war heroes, people at slave auctions, and any other persona or activity that they choose. And it's all backed up by scholarship, which continues to drive plantation storytelling. To end our exploration of plantation tourism as it is in the early 21st century, before looking at Black genealogy enthusiasts' survey assessment of this tourism, we hone in on Black visitors, the tourists themselves. More accurately, we're looking at both visitors and those who refuse to visit plantation tourism sites. Whether non-visitors be repulsed by the stories depicted, the interpreters, or the harsh facts of history, they find no value at plantations. One Vanderbilt University student hisses, for instance, that, quote, people can have their wedding at Belmead. They can enjoy wine tasting and buy t-shirts as a fun souvenir. I can't imagine being able to do the same at the site of any other human tragedy, unquote. Whether aware of other sites' souvenirs and affordances or not, those who oppose plantation tourism have not stopped Black visitation at plantations. The protesters abhor stories of our ancestors who were not Nat Turner, meaning all ancestors except Nat, and to a degree others who sought to slaughter their owners. They want to protect Black visitors from potential psychological identity wounds, wounds attendant with seeing and embodying ancestors being horrendously violated. Rather than honor ancestors who lived, loved, and learned on plantations, anti-plantation tourism protesters reject plantation-reared ancestors with such slogans as, warning, I am not my ancestors, and dear racism, I am not, I repeat, I am not my ancestors. The implication is that these ancestors did not do what was necessary to properly pave the way for descendants. They did not sufficiently fight and or kill enslavers. A family travel advocate likens visiting plantations to visiting Auschwitz, saying that despite visitors leaving informed and affected, quote, there is no joy in visiting the Whitney plantation or in learning about the atrocities that happened there and on similar properties throughout the South. You won't leave feeling better about humanity, unquote. She adds, everyone who visits the Whitney plantation receives a card. Each bears the story of a different slave, derived from interviews with more than 2,300 former slaves conducted by the Federal Writers Project in the 1930s. I'm standing next to my own 12-year-old the moment I read Pauline's story and can't imagine him having to grow up knowing he was someone else's property. Still, Black tourists come for stories of Black people and white people, legally owned and owners, living together at one site. These are the stuff of Plantation Site Stories, both on exhibit and in our family heritage books. Former Congressman John Lewis may have thought that no Black person worthy of honor could sustain a personal relationship with an owner family member before his 2012 appearance on the Lewis Gates popular Finding Your Roots television program, that is, Henry Louis Gates. On that program, Lewis learned through letters and other documentation that some of his enslaved ancestors honorably performed acts of service for and established close personal relationships with their owner family members. Presuming Lewis would find the relationship surprising and unseemly, Gates says, "See, we think we understand slavery, but it was more complicated than any of us can possibly have imagined. Does it bother you at all to read that your ancestors were loyal to their master during the Civil War?" Lewis conveys that he understands the complexity of human encounters, stating, "No, it doesn't disturb me. It's the relationships. You can be around people. You become family." Unperturbed by the array of stories he may have encountered, Joseph McGill is the most prolific Black visitor at Plantations, having vowed to spend the night in all extant slave cabins. He often leads groups of Black tourists, including Jefferson descendants, as part of his slave dwelling project. Some Black visitors at plantations, such as Sandy Yates at the Hampton Plantation in Towson, Maryland, want to experience some of the horrors of enslavement, placing themselves in artifacts that inflict pain for punishment and control. Other Black plantation tourists savor positive experiences, those that docents and the self-guided tours have to offer them. Danielle Jones toured a plantation as part of her appearance on the genealogy TV program called The Generations Project. She says she was excited to go. She was excited because in an ancestor, she saw a revered trait that she wanted to trace through her lineage, both further back and forward toward her. That is, she savors uplifting ancestral plantation stories because she wants the positive ancestral self-identity they support. One regular visitor to a plantation ancestral home says, quote, "There is one tree in front of the winery and another one behind the mansion. I always touch those trees because they were there when my ancestors were there. I touch them and feel that I am touching my ancestors. They touch these same trees," unquote. Similarly, One of the leaders in genealogy, Tania Kuntz, delights in her family having visited an ancestral home of her husband, walking the grounds his great-great-grandmother and great-grandfather once walked. Tania adds that she's grateful her children rejoiced in the moment, for, quote, it's important to keep their ancestors' spirits alive and with them, unquote. Our Black Family Heritage Books archive includes stories of plantations as ancestral homes that vary widely in their treatment and framing of these stories. And all the stories lead to home. Be sure to check out survey results of our plantation story preferences in the satisfaction score entry that ends this series. Be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss it.